Guys, this is Mr. Howell, and I want to welcome the class of 2021 back to school again. Uh, I don't think school has started like anyone would have anticipated, but nonetheless, we are glad to have you back, and we are hoping that very soon some of the social restrictions will be changed so we can actually get down to doing some sort of senior activities. So I'm going to go ahead and get started here. My job today in the beginning of this video is to show you how you're going to get the documents back to us that the counselors are going to talk about. Now, on a typical school year in grades 9 through 11, you have normal documents that you would be sent home with, and then you would bring back and give to your homeroom teacher. So being a senior, you still have to fill those documents out, but on top of that, there are certain senior documents that you have to fill out. So to make this the most convenient for you, I've taken all of those documents and I've put them together into one document. And you're going to get this one time in your school email. You're going to fill it out with your parents or your guardian, and you will get it to us, and you will be good to go for most of the documents that you need to fill out for the rest of your senior year. Now, your counselors are going to talk to you about what each document means. They're also going to tell you that you're going to need to post it in Google Classroom once you finish with it. I have taken an extra step and I've set a little automation up to where when you submit this document, it automatically goes into Google Classroom. So when you finish this document, you will get a copy of the signed document in your email, and it will automatically be posted to the Google Classroom. So there's nothing else to do once you finish the document. So to get started, you would go to your school email, and just to remind you, your school email is going to be your username at ebrstudents.org. That's your username at ebrstudents.org. You should look for an email from Liberty Magnet with the title Senior Documents. If you click on that email, it's going to give you the option to review and sign, and obviously you need to click on review and sign, and it will redirect you to the HelloSign website. Now, when you get here, there are quite a few pages of documents that you need to fill out, and your counselor will go over what most of those mean and how to get them complete and what they're really asking. So to get started, you're going to click on Get Started. Now, when you click Get Started, you're going to see a couple of things on here. You're going to see something over to your left that tells you the number of required fields, and you'll see something over here that says Next. So some areas in the document, it's already going to have your name. So if that is the case, it's already got your name in it, and there's nothing to fill out in the area. So I'm going to start with my grade right here. The counselors are going to explain to you what this right here means. So I'm going to say that there's no corrections that need to be made, and I'm going to check that box right there. So I'm going to skip down, and you get to your first area where you have to sign it. So it's very simple. You click here to sign. Now, when this comes up, your screen is going to look like this right here. You don't have any signatures. Now, if you have signatures here, that means you might have used this program to sign something else, which is fine. But if you have no signatures there, you've got a couple of options. You can draw it, which is kind of hard, or you can type it, you can upload it, or you can use your smartphone to create it. So I'm going to do the easy one, which is type. So I'm going to type my last name or first name and last name, and you got some options right here as far as how you want to customize it, but I'm going to just leave it like that. Now, this next step is very important, guys. You have two options down here. Once again, do not click on Insert Everywhere. Please do not click on Insert Everywhere, and I'll explain that in just a minute. You're going to want to click on Insert, and it's going to insert it there. Now, you'll notice that wherever the date is, it should automatically put the date that you are signing it. and you go down to your next area, and you'll notice some of these have stars and some of them don't have stars. The ones that have stars are the boxes that are required, and you'll notice as you fill those in, this number right here decreases. So I'm going to put some stuff in here really quick, and I'm just going to fill in the red boxes that are required. And you'll see as I'm typing this, the number of fields left are decreasing. And some boxes that have names are asking for an actual parent's name. Some of them will ask for a parent signature. And you just click on what's required. Now you get right here and it's asking for the student signature. So you click to sign and it's going to put it there. Now right here it's asking for the parent or legal guardian signature. So when you hit click to sign, look what happens. It puts the student signature there. So when that happens, you're going to have to hit edit, and then you're going to add your parent's signature, and they can add it any of the ways that you added yours. If they have it saved, they can upload it if they want to use their smartphone, or you can have them draw it, whichever. Having them draw it might actually be kind of funny to watch, so because you have to use your mouse. You're going to insert it, and you're going to move to the next field. You'll look to see there's another place for the parent or legal guardian. We're going to put it there. There's a place here for the child's name, and since this is a signature, we're going to want it done again for their name. Now you'll notice that some of these documents are redundant. We'll ask for your name on one document, your address, and then you'll get to the next document and it's going to ask for your name and your address again. It's not deja vu, it's just how the documents are set up. Remember, these documents are designed to go out individually, and I'm putting them together in one document to make it a lot easier on you, and that way you just get one file and you're done with it after that. So you scroll down and your counselors are going to go over what this content means on these pages. So you just find where it needs you to sign. Make sure you're signing parent for parent and student for student. And the emergency information card. So you'll see that these boxes, none of them have stars in them. So this is the card that we have on file. This is also the card we use to help us keep JCampus updated. So you only need to fill this out if something has changed. If you bought a house, parents bought a house recently and your address changed, or work number changed, a cell phone number changed, anything medically that might have changed, that's when you would put that in here. But you only need to put it if something has changed. So I'm going to scroll down. This is the permission to treat, and the counselors will help explain this also. And I'm not going to fill any of this out. Now, this is the normal documentation that you would get at the beginning of the school year in any grade, saying that we've given you the handbook. Now, we haven't given you the handbook. The handbook is on our website, and you can look at the handbook, and if you have any questions, you can let us know. But this basically says that you know the handbook is there, and I'm telling you the handbook is there. If you don't believe me, you can go look. Now, I'm going to purposely leave this blank, and I'm going to show you why in a minute. So I'm going to click on these to fill these out, and I'm going to make sure I change the name right here because it's asking for the student. So notice student signature here, parent signature here, and miraculously I put my signature in advance. This is more documentation that your counselors will fill out. Once again, there's a place for the student to sign, and there's a place for the parent to sign. Now, this right here is our magnet contract. You probably filled this out when you were an 8th grader coming to, at that time, Lee Magnet. Normally, you do not fill this out each year. We're having you fill this out each year because the magnet contract has changed. And the change in the magnet contract basically addresses the fact that we have a large number of students who are virtual. And it basically says, if you could get removed from the magnet school for anything in person, you can also get removed for doing that same activity virtually. That's basically what it says. So you're going to put your grade in here, and it's got an area. It should have your name already here, and there's an area for your students to sign. Ms. Baker, who became our magnet coordinator last year, and my signature is already there. And that is basically it. But if you look up here, we still have one field left. And if you have 1 or 2 fields left and you're like, what the heck did I miss? Then all you have to do is click right here, and it's going to take you to that field. So it brought me, there we go, to the field. So this is the one I missed, and I'm going to fill that in and watch what happens. Boom, it tells me that we've completed it. And very important right here, guys, you have to hit continue. It is not complete, and we do not get it until you hit continue. So I'm going to hit continue, and the terms and agreement is going to come up. This is basically the standard terms of agreement of any digital signed document. So click agree, and it says thanks for submitting your document. So this document completed weaves its way through the World Wide Web, and a copy of it is automatically sent to the Google Classroom, and it is automatically sent to your school email. I would suggest you don't delete it, because if for some instance we do make a mistake and we can't find your signed document in the Google Classroom, then you should still have it saved in your email, and you can email it to us. Well, guys, thank you for your attention. Your counselors will go into more details about what these forms are, and when we post this video, I will also post a form that you will be able to ask any questions that aren't addressed in the video, or any questions that you have in general. So thank you guys, and you guys have a great rest of your day.
Everyone, I'm Mrs. Mason. I'm one of 3 school counselors here at Liberty Magnet High School.
I'm Miss Cart, second of the 3.
And I'm Miss Duvall, the third of the 3.
Okay. Welcome, and today we have a lot of information to discuss and share with you all today. The first thing that we would like you guys to do is make sure that you've joined the School Counseling Google Classroom. The code is on your screen. Once you've added yourself to the School Counseling Google Classroom, you should see this. Please click on the Classwork tab. And on the Classwork tab, if you scroll down to Senior Forms and Links, you should see the Senior Checklist. So we're working from the Senior Checklist today. Okay, once you've joined the Senior Classroom, we have several different tabs where we've posted a lot of information. So once you begin, we receive information from different stakeholders. We post that information here. Once you click on any of the tabs, you may see a document, you may see a link. Simply click on whatever it is to receive the information that the stakeholders have available for you guys here at the school.
Okay, the next thing we're going to talk about is going to be the transcript review form. That is something that you've been getting since you began school at Lee Now Liberty High School. Each year when we went in, we would visit with you and we would bring you a transcript. So what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to go in and pull your transcript up in the Progress Center. This is what the review form looks like. Okay. You need to check your subjects that you've taken each school year. Make sure that your class is on there. You need to check and make sure that the credit that you were given is correct and that the grades are correct. If everything looks okay and it's fine to go, you're just going to fill out your name, put the date, and you can do the little check mark, but all of the information is correct and no corrections are needed. If you have something that you think is incorrect, you're going to check the second blank saying that you believe there's some errors. And then at the bottom, you're going to fill in that you think is incorrect. You're going to put what you think it should be, whether it be the grade or the credit that's not right. While you're checking this, you can go and you can double check on the
Greetings, everyone. The first form I will discuss is the Formal Commitment Intent to Graduate form. The Formal Commitment Intent to Graduate form is a graduation requirement. This form must be submitted in the class of 2021 Google Classroom. This school year, the district has implemented the Social Emotional Learning Curriculum. The Social Emotional Learning Curriculum is designed to build resiliency skills by teaching students how to handle typical life stressors and difficult but common social situations in a positive manner. The social emotional learning curriculum will be facilitated through the school counseling department and or eye care specialists. The resiliency skills that will be covered through the curriculum are problem solving, positive thinking, goal setting, empathy, anger management, identifying and understanding emotions, as well as perspective taking. Our district and school are committed to ensuring that all students get through their school years not only with strong academic skills, but also with the skills necessary to foster resiliency and prevent social, emotional, and behavioral problems that can impact success in various areas of a student's life. Lastly, I would like to reiterate the forms that must be submitted in the class of 2021 Google Classroom: the individual graduation plan, the IGP, the transcript review form, the TOPS college scholarships, grants, aid programs, and college admissions consent form, the formal commitment intent to graduate form, and also the social emotional learning curriculum consent form. All forms must be submitted in the class of 2021 Google Classroom by October 14th, 2020. As always, if you have any questions or concerns regarding any of these forms, please feel free to contact your school counselor. Ms. Cart services students with the last names A through F, Ms. Mason services students with the last names G through M, and Ms. Duvall services students with the last names N through Z.
I'm Ann Carmichael, a student financial aid consultant with Leland, and I hope when the presentation is over, you have a better understanding of the student financial aid process. As I'm sure your counselor has already told you, the Louisiana Department of Education has asked that the class of 2021 submit the free application for federal student aid as a requirement for graduation. This ensures that your money is ready and waiting for you when you begin college in the fall. And because college can be expensive, you need to start thinking about and preparing for those costs. They include equipment, books and supplies, personal expenses, room and board, and tuition and fees. And the good news is that you can find money to help pay for those expenses from the federal government, our state government, your college or career school, and nonprofit and private organizations. Every year, the federal government provides more than $120 billion in student financial aid, and a lot of that goes unawarded. We just want to make sure that you're receiving your portion. Types of federal student aid include the federal Pell Grant, the federal Supplemental Education Opportunity Grant, the Teacher Educational Assistance for College and Higher Education Grant, the Iraq and Afghanistan Service Grant, Federal Work Study, and direct subsidized, unsubsidized, and PLUS loans. Federal student aid grants are a form of financial aid that doesn't have to be repaid. And they include the Pell Grant for undergraduates with financial need, the FSEOG for undergraduates with extreme financial need, service grants for students of military parents who died defending the country following 9/11, and teach grants for students pursuing a teaching career. The Federal Work Study Program provides part-time jobs to help pay for your educational expenses. By selecting yes on the FAFSA, you're telling the financial aid office that you're interested in federal work study, and they'll consider you for the program. Your earnings will be paid directly to you and should be used to pay your college expenses. Direct subsidized loans are based on financial need, and no interest is charged until you graduate or cease to attend. Almost everyone is eligible for direct unsubsidized loans, regardless of financial need. However, the interest begins to accrue on these loans once fully dispersed and then throughout the life of the loan. So you see, there's a big difference between direct subsidized and unsubsidized loans. Always accept the subsidized loans before the unsub, and you can remember this by saying the U in unsubsidized means you always pay the interest, and you want to avoid as much interest as you can. If offered loans, accept the federal student loans first, because payments aren't due until you graduate or cease to attend. The interest rate is fixed at a lower rate, and no credit check is required. Private loans should be accepted only as needed, because most require payments be made while you're still in school. The interest rate might be variable and often much higher, and they almost always require a cosigner. So do your research before selecting a private lender, because interest rates and incentives to borrow will vary. To dispel the myth, almost everyone is eligible for some type of federal student aid. All federal student aid and most institutional and private aid is contingent upon completion of the free application for federal student aid, or the FAFSA, which launches on October 1st of each year. Student financial aid is awarded on a first come, first served basis, so submit your FAFSA as soon as possible. And remember to pay close attention to and meet all of the FAFSA deadlines set forth by your college, state government, and federal student aid. Begin the FAFSA process by collecting all the documents needed to complete the form. And these include the student and parents' social security cards, because the FSA ID and FAFSA must reflect the names and numbers exactly as printed on your most recent card, even if your name has changed. 2019 federal income tax returns, because to use the IRS data retrieval tool, you must enter your name and address exactly as printed on the tax return, even if your name is changed or it's misspelled or you've moved since you filed it. If you don't have a copy of your tax return for 2019, contact your tax preparer for a duplicate copy or request a tax transcript from the IRS. W-2s, because there's important information on this form that might not be found on the federal tax return. And bank statements and records of investments, because you must report the balances of these accounts as of the date you submit the FAFSA. By creating the Federal Student Aid ID, you're going to be able to use it to access federal student aid websites, such as the FAFSA. So this is your first step. The FSA ID consists of a unique username and password created by you, and should reflect only your personal information. Each student and one parent should create an ID by visiting fsaid.ed.gov, and only your email address and phone number should be listed in your FSA ID. Quite often, we see that students and parents will share information. Your parent might use your mobile phone as an alternate number and vice versa. You might be using an email address that your parent also uses. This is going to cause trouble signing your FAFSA. That's considered shared information. So if you do not have an email address, it's time to create a personal address. You want to use only your personal addresses on these forms, because if you use your high school email address, once you graduate, Federal Student Aid will have no way to get in touch with you about your aid. Parents, same thing. If you switch jobs, you might be missing important information from Federal Student Aid. So always use your personal email addresses and mobile phone numbers. Your FSA ID username and password is your official electronic signature. So record it, keep it in a safe place, and don't share it with anyone. If you don't have access to a computer or you just prefer to, you can download the FAFSA mobile app to submit your FAFSA on your mobile phone or other device. Or complete the FAFSA using the web-based version at fafsa.gov. Begin the FAFSA by logging in with the student's FSA ID, because the FAFSA is the student's application for Federal Student Aid. The parent's ID is going to be used to transfer tax information into the FAFSA from the IRS, and also to sign the student's FAFSA. The high school class of 2021 should complete the 2021-2022 FAFSA, because that's the academic year that you're applying for financial aid. There are 8 sections that should be completed before submitting the FAFSA: the student demographics, school selection, dependency status, parent demographics, parent and student financials. Then it's time to sign and submit and review your confirmation page. As you move through the FAFSA, if you need clarification, just click on the question mark beside each question. You can select the hyperlinks that are provided. You can request an online FAFSA chat, call Federal Student Aid, or contact me at Leela's FAFSA helpline. For this session, I'm just going to cover the most commonly asked FAFSA questions. But if you have one that I don't address, please feel free to call me on Leela's FAFSA helpline or send me an email. I'll provide you with that contact information again at the end of this presentation. The citizenship requirement. The student must be a citizen or eligible non-citizen to complete a FAFSA. And a description of these this is described within the FAFSA through a hyperlink. So you can always click on that if you're not sure if you're an eligible non-citizen or not. However, if your parents are neither citizens nor eligible non-citizens, that's fine. They will just enter zeros anywhere a social security number is requested. Only the colleges that you list on the FAFSA in the school selection section will consider you for student financial aid. So Federal Student Aid is not just blasting your personal information to every college out there. You have to give them permission to send your info there. So you want to make sure you're adding all of the schools that you're considering, and you can add up to 10 at a time. Now, if you're planning to apply to more than 10 colleges, there's specific instructions here in the school selection section that you can review. To determine your dependency status, you'll be asked to consider 10 questions. Will you be 24 or older by January 1st of the school year for which you are applying for financial aid? Are you married or separated but not divorced? Will you be working on a graduate degree? Do you have children who receive more than half of their support from you? Do you have dependents other than a child or a spouse who live with you and receive more than half of their support from you? Are you currently serving on active duty in the U.S. Armed Forces for purposes other than training? So this is going to exclude boot camp and basic training. Are you a veteran of the U.S. Armed Forces? At any time since you turned 13, were both of your parents deceased? Were you in foster care, or were you a ward or dependent of the court? Are you an emancipated minor, or are you in legal guardianship as determined by a court? And it's important to note that legal custody is not always considered legal guardianship, so make sure you have a copy of your documents with you before you answer this question. Are you an unaccompanied youth who's homeless? Or are you self-supporting and at risk of being homeless? If your school district has identified you, you need to make sure you get a copy of that documentation before you graduate, because the financial aid office is going to ask you for it. If you can answer yes to just one of these questions and provide a legal document supporting that claim, then you're considered an independent student for FAFSA purposes and will not be asked to provide parental information. But for FAFSA purposes, you're not considered an independent student simply because you file your own taxes or you live alone and support yourself. Who is my parent when I fill out the FAFSA? The parent or parents that you've lived with the longest in the past 12 months should be listed on your FAFSA. So if you live with both of your biological parents, you'll want to list them. If the parent you live with the longest in the past 12 months is separated, divorced, or was never married, you should list that parent on your FAFSA. However, if that parent is remarried, you should include his or her spouse. In other words, federal student aid wants to know the financial standing of the household that the student has lived in the longest in the 12 months prior to the FAFSA being submitted. If you're identified as a dependent student but your parents refuse to provide their information on your FAFSA, you're going to answer, I'm unable to provide information about my parents, state that you do not have a special circumstance, and submit your FAFSA without parental information. But next, you need to contact your financial aid offices to discuss this situation, because if you don't, you're only going to be considered for student loans. Your college financial aid office will determine your financial aid, not federal student aid. So make sure you're communicating with the financial aid office. To expedite the processing of your federal student aid, the student and parents should use the IRS data retrieval tool to provide income information. If either the parent or student did not file a return in 2019, they should select not going to file or will file and enter their income information manually. Or if you didn't earn any working wages in 2019, state that and enter zeros in the income fields. But remember, using the IRS data retrieval tool can greatly diminish your chances of being selected for verification. And if you're having trouble using the tool, contact Federal Student Aid or call Leela's FAFSA helpline. We'll be happy to assist you. Using your 2019 federal income tax return, enter your name, and address exactly as it's printed on the return, even if it's misspelled or you've moved since you filed it. And then you're almost finished. But before submitting your FAFSA, it's important to look over your student aid report. This report reflects each question you were asked and your answer to it. So review it because this ensures that the financial aid office receives accurate information so your aid can be processed timely. The student and one parent should sign the FAFSA with their FSA IDs. If you submit without signatures, the FAFSA is going to be considered incomplete, and the processing of your financial aid could be held up. Review your FAFSA confirmation page. This way you can find out the steps that you need to take next to complete the student financial aid process. You'll see a list of the colleges that will receive your FAFSA data. You can review your estimated expected family contribution and consider your financial aid estimates. Remember, these are estimates. They're based on your FAFSA answers, and each college financial aid office is going to verify the information that you've submitted, and then they'll determine your aid on their campus. Once your FAFSA is fully processed, it's shared with the colleges, and then each financial aid office will begin to identify any aid that you might be eligible to receive. If your family's financial situation has changed since 2019, contact your college financial aid offices because they're going to have the ability to adjust your aid by using what's called professional judgment. Your net price is going to be determined by each college by subtracting any grants and scholarships that you're eligible for from your cost of attendance. The net price can be paid in cash or by accepting student loans to pay that balance. Your student financial aid offer should reflect the college's cost of attendance and any grants, scholarships, work study, and student loans that you've been offered. So read it over very carefully and respond to any requests from the financial aid office so that they can quickly process your aid. Remember that you're going to receive a separate financial aid office from each of the schools that you've listed on the FAFSA. You want to accept your aid in this offer in this order: scholarships and grants, which is gift aid that doesn't have to be repaid; federal work study, which is earned money that doesn't have to be paid back; and then student loans, because this is borrowed money that must be repaid and with interest, and you're trying to avoid that. The student financial aid process is explained in detail in Leila's FAFSA Completion Guide and Workbook for the class of 2021, and it's a free resource for Louisiana high school seniors. Contact me at carmichael@leila.org for your copy. I'll be happy to send it over to you. And use Leila's senior checklist to stay on track this year. This will be included with your guide. Scholarships are gifts that don't have to be repaid, and there are thousands of them offered by schools, employers, private companies, nonprofits, community organizations, professional and social groups. Some scholarships are merit-based, awarded on academic achievement or on a combination of academics and a special talent that you might have. Other scholarships are based on financial need. A scholarship could cover the entire cost of your tuition or could be a one-time award of a few $100s. Either way, it's worth applying for because it's going to reduce the cost of your education. And you can find out more about scholarships from the library, from your high school counselor, or your college financial aid office. This year, Leila offers 2 scholarship opportunities. a $1,000 FAFSA completion scholarship for seniors attending a Louisiana high school, and a $1,000 Choose Louisiana scholarship for students attending a Louisiana college. Visit lila.org for the details. For students or parents who need help paying for college after accepting all of the scholarships, grants, federal and state dollars, consider Lila Choice. It's Louisiana's nonprofit education loan program. You can find out more at lilachoice.org. We're always available to help you through the process, and your questions are always welcomed. Remember to call Lila's FAFSA helpline, or send me an email at carmichael@lila.org to discuss your situation. Remember to complete your FAFSA and then apply for Lila's $1,000 FAFSA completion scholarship. I'm looking forward to reviewing your applications.